McKim.
Well, thanks very much, President. Look, firstly, I want to be very clear that the Australian Greens will be supporting this disallowance moved by One Nation, and fair to say we don't often agree with One Nation, but on this very narrow circumstance we absolutely agree with One Nation, and we agree on this because cash is absolutely critical in our society and in our economy. Cash matters, and it matters because so many different people rely on cash for inclusion, they rely on cash for choice, they rely on cash to purchase the essentials of life, and cash is necessary to ensure basic resilience in our society and our economy when digital systems fail, as inevitably they do from time to time. Now, let's just rewind to when Labor put out the consultation paper on cash. That proposed a far broader cash mandate than Labor actually brought into the parliament with the instrument that this debate seeks to disallow. So Labor watered down its own original proposal, and as a result they've presented to this parliament a cash mandate that is extremely narrow in scope. And the Greens will vote to disallow this instrument because it would force the government back to the table to introduce a cash mandate that was more broad and would provide greater protections and a broader mandate for the use of cash in our society. It would have done, except for one thing, and that is the speech we just heard from the Leader of Opposition Business in the Senate. Now, I don't know who wrote that rubbish for Senator Cash, but let me be very clear. Everyone in this chamber knew the Liberals were supporting this disallowance last week. So my first question is, how did you get bought off? What did the government buy you off with to make you change your position
McKim,
from last?
Resume your seat. Senator O'Sullivan.
Yeah, impugning motives. I would like to know what the Greens did, what the Greens
Senator
got for their 22 bills that they're
Senator
giving.
O'Sullivan, let's not play games. Senator McKim.
I withdraw. What I will say is this, President. Everyone knew that the Liberals in this place were supporting this disallowance last week, and now today we find out that they are not going to support it. And in doing so, the Liberals are letting the government off the hook, and let me explain exactly why that is. Because in an attempt to make it seem like they're not letting the government off the hook, the Leader of Opposition Business has just revealed in her speech the Liberals are going to table a private senator's bill on this matter, which will no doubt contain a broader cash mandate than currently exists. Now, we all know what's going to happen there. If it's a decently drafted bill and it does contain a broader mandate, I'm not going to speak for One Nation, but you'd assume they'd support it. We'll have a look at it. You could assume we'll support it too, and it will get through the Senate. And you know what's going to happen then? It's going to go down into the House and it's going to die a miserable, lonely death down there, and it'll never be brought on for debate because the government's got the numbers down there, so it'll never become law. What you could have done was vote for this disallowance today and force the government back to the table to bring in an appropriate mandate on cash that was far more broad in scope to the one that they're currently proposing. And the reason they're not going to be forced back to the table is because the opposition have squibbed it today. That's why. That's why. The government has been let off the hook. And Senator Cash can spare the chamber her crocodile tears and her hand-wringing about cash, because the very reason that people are not going to be able to, the very reason that cash is not going to be mandated for things like data, for things like communication services, for things like energy bills, is because the Liberals backed down and squibbed it today. So when people contact us, and boy are the emails flowing on this issue, I can tell you, you can be very sure we'll be explaining exactly why the Greens supported this disallowance, to force the government back to the table and bring in a far more broad mandate on cash, and we'll be explaining exactly why the government is not being forced back to the table, and that is the opposition completely squibbed it.